Welcome everyone to today's CSIA Wednesday webinar series. My name is Colin Hammond and I will be your host today. From its start, CSIA was built on the principle of collaboration and with the goal to advance the industry of control system integration. In times of crisis, our members have turned to the CSIA community as a trusted source for advice and inspiration. In line with this, we have begun this Wednesday webinar series. Our goal is to help our community manage, survive, and hopefully thrive from the current crisis. We plan to cover a wide range of topics on coping and or leveraging the current situation and have SIs, vendor partners, and special guests present. For those of you who are unfamiliar with CSIA, we are a global nonprofit professional association with over 500 member companies in 40 countries. Our mission is to advance the practice of control system integration to benefit our members and their clients. Our vision is to ensure that manufacturing and process industries everywhere have access to low risk, safe, and successful application of automation technology. CSIA membership offers members access to resources needed to attain and exceed business goals. To highlight just a few of our many member benefits, the CSIA Best Practices Manual guides control system integration companies in the setup and running of a solid company. CSIA Insurance Program offers members an excellent insurance program and offers an insurance program and for business owners, subcontractors, and more. The program includes members from all over the world enjoying the peace of mind that comes with CSIA insurance. Clients in all industries are now seeking integrators with a CSIA certification alongside ISO. They recognize CSIA certified integrators' commitment to industry standards and business acumen. As a result, being certified can shorten the sales cycle. CSIA Industrial Automation Exchange is the premier automation guide featuring system integrators and suppliers who provide industrial manufacturing and process automation solutions. For integrators and suppliers, it's a place to market their expertise. Clients will find white papers, case studies, capabilities, contact information, and engage in conversation directly with CSIA members. Please follow CSIA's online events calendars for all upcoming webinars, including partner webinars and business webinars. You won't want to miss these opportunities to learn from the comfort of your own office or home. And for more information about CSIA, please give us an email at info@staff.controlsys.org or give us a call at 847-686-2245. And with that, I would now like to turn it over to Jessica. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you, Colin. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for attending our expert panel on what you need to know now about marketing. I'm Jessica Mlinaric, the Marketing Manager at DMC. I've been a marketer for over 12 years, and I also serve as the co-chair of the CSIA Marketing Committee, who is sponsoring this event. If you have any questions or comments throughout our discussion, please add them to the Q&A feature, and we're looking forward to seeing your questions at the end of the discussion. I'd like to start by introducing our panelists for today. Tim, can you give us a quick intro?
Sure, yeah. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. I'm the System Integrator Program Director for Aveva Partner Networks, and I come with about 40 years of industrial automation experience.
Thanks, Tim. Julie Gaier.
Thanks, Jessica. Good morning, everybody. I'm a content marketer storyteller with TRG Marketing in Brookfield, Wisconsin, and that's a suburb of Milwaukee. I develop relationships with editors to secure interviews, article placements, podcast opportunities for CSIA members in vertical trade media publications. And under the full marketing umbrella, I write blogs, e-newsletter articles, social media posts, award nominations. I shoot photos and video and more for our clients. I've been in marketing for about 9 years, working with CSIA the majority of that time, and I spent 20 years prior to that as a TV news reporter. And I'm really excited to be a part of this conversation today.
Thanks, Julie. Steve Malisko.
Yeah, hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Steve Malisko. I'm co-founder and CEO of Malisko Engineering. I'm also a board member for CSIA. I'm also on the Best Practices Committee and the Marketing Committee for CSIA. And I guess I'm the subject guinea pig of members as to why marketing is so important to all of the system integrator community and the members out there in the world.
Thanks, Steve. How about Meghan Pavasaris?
Thanks, Jessica. I'm Meghan Pavasaris. I'm a senior account manager at Rivergate Marketing. Rivergate Marketing is a digital marketing agency, and we work just about exclusively with industrial automation companies. So we work with a number of CSIA members presently and previously, including Patty Engineering, Superior Controls, EES with Pat Miller. So happy to be part of this conversation. I see a few familiar names over in the attendee list. Happy to have you and happy to talk to some new members as well.
Thanks, Meghan. Finally, Lisa Richter.
Hi guys, I'm Lisa Richter. I'm CSIA's industry director, and in that role I focus primarily on business development and content development, but we're a small association with a small staff, so when Jose says, Lisa, do this, I do that. So prior to that, I was VP of Marcom for a large commercial cleaning association.
Well, thanks everyone. Before we get started with the hows of marketing, I'd like to start with the why. Steve, from your perspective as a system integrator, can you walk us through your marketing journey and what you discovered in terms of why marketing matters?
Yeah, sure, I will. Let me digress. Well, first of all, I forgot to mention, Malisko Engineering has been around for 25 years. And my marketing journey started about 19 years ago. It happened when, at the time, Malisko Engineering only consisted of 8 people. And we just completed, a big project at an existing client. Well, after the startup, and this is true, after the startup, I was sitting there drinking beers with the client's project manager, who also happened to be the client's automation manager, and his name was Bill. So we're sitting there over beers, and he says, you know what, Steve, you and your guys are without a doubt the best integrator I have ever had the pleasure of doing business with. Now I was smiling from ear to ear, but he says, but you know what? You are horrible at marketing. I looked at Bill really puzzled, and Bill said, you know what, Steve? You don't toot your own horn enough. And so, I kind of shrugged my shoulders, but later that night, I got to thinking what Bill said. And you know what? He was right. Back then, Malisko Engineering, we relied on word of mouth and the assumption that, well, word would just spread, that Malisko Engineering was a good integrator. And so from that point in time, 19 years ago, is when I came to the realization that, like other system integrators, we needed to do more marketing and get that word out and toot our own horn.
Thanks for sharing, Steve. Before we continue diving in, I'd like to do a quick poll to see where everyone in the audience is in terms of their marketing experience. Colin, can you share that poll with the audience?
Of course.
Thank you.
So you will see the poll come up now, and once we get around 75%, I will share the results with the attendees.
Suspense is killing me.
How many marketing rock stars do we have there?
Oh, looks like 60%, 70%. Just another second here. Okay. So I'm going to end it at 80% right there. And you should be able to see the results right now.
Awesome. Love to see lots of people just starting out on their marketing journeys for their organizations, and maybe some people who are, working on it and looking for some new ideas. So thank you everyone for sharing that. So we know that marketing is important, but some organizations, especially those in our audience who are beginning their marketing journey, might not even know where to start. Lisa, what would you recommend?
Okay, if you take nothing else away from this webinar today, please, for the love of Baby Yoda, Don't be this guy, okay? See this screen on, see this website shot on here? Every now and again, I come across one of our members and I'll go to look them up, and their website looks like it was built at the beginning of the interwebs. And it's just, I just can't stress enough how foundational having a modern, complete, up-to-date website is. And it's not just branding, and that's important. You want to build trust with your audience. You can't say to them, please spend a ton of money with me, but look at my website and it appears like I don't know what I'm doing, especially around cybersecurity and all that stuff. It's so important to people. You really need to have the right look. But also because Google will ding you if your website is not optimized, mobile optimized. Even if your audience isn't necessarily going to your website via their mobile phone, it's one of those 200 signals that Google uses to rank your company when you come up in search results. My next piece of advice would be to Google your company. I mean, clear your browser history because that might skew your results. And that's your to-do list. What comes up? Hopefully your company website, that would be the first thing that you would want to work on. And then all the other results that come through, is it your LinkedIn profile? Maybe you've got some reviews on Glassdoor or Indeed, or maybe it's your CSIA Exchange profile. Make sure all those properties that are coming up in the search results are complete and consistent across all the digital properties, because that's another thing that Google looks for. If you've got one address over here and another address over there, then Google starts to wonder if you're really true blue, right? And also think about Google My Business. This is, I think, mostly more for local search, but I still think it's a good place to start to make sure that Google has all your complete information, your address, your phone number, all that basic information that will start to kind of help build that foundation for your digital presence. And again, to the social media, I know that could be a time suck, and maybe you can't handle all the different platforms, but at least put a stake in the ground. Get a Facebook page, even if you don't really plan on using it. Get a LinkedIn company page, even if you don't plan on using it, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think you need to worry about TikTok, but I might even consider Instagram, because we don't really know what the future holds for the younger people and the younger generation coming up. And then focus on one. I would say LinkedIn would be my #1 choice. If you don't have a lot of time for social media, at least focus on LinkedIn. Make sure you're checking to see if there's any comments on your things. You're liking comments, you're being responsive to your audience, and just try and post once a week. And it doesn't have to be any original content. You can share an article or, a report or a study or research, something like that, just to try and maintain that digital presence. I know when I'm researching a company, the first thing I do is I go to their website and then I go to their LinkedIn profile. And I know that's true for a lot of people. So if you have limited time and limited resources, your website and your LinkedIn profile, and make sure that anything that's coming up in the search results makes you look good. And finally, well, not finally, but probably the fifth thing I would say is your Exchange profile, particularly if you're a CSIA member. That comes as part of your membership. Why not make sure it's complete? Why not, take full advantage of all the features that you have in there? That Exchange, there are a couple of benefits to that. Number one, it's engineers, according to data, use directories as their #2 source when they're searching for a new company to work with. Aside from a company's website, directories are the #2. The Exchange gets 250,000 page views a year. It's good for creating backlinks, which is another thing that Google likes to see, is backlinks, internally and external backlinks, or another one of its 200 or whatever signals that it uses to rank results. And also you get this herd SEO, right? If everybody is collectively posting content that's relevant, now we're lifting the tide is lifting the whole boat up, or something like that. I think I completely mix my metaphors, but you know what I mean. Another really easy win is to get on podcasts. And I know you're thinking, oh, she's just touting her Talking Industrial Automation podcast here again, but not just my podcast. There are other podcasts popping up around in the industry, and it's such an easy, low cost, low investment way to get content that is evergreen and you can repurpose. You can take sound bites from it for social media. You could create a blog post. It's just such an easy win. So I think that is a great way to go if you're struggling to get content, which I know a lot. I hear that a lot from people. My engineers are willing to write, but that time isn't billable, so they don't want to spend it doing that, right? And then finally, we've got some resources here at CSIA. The marketing committee has recently revamped the toolkit, the marketing toolkit. It's probably about 90% complete right now, Megan. There's one chapter that's still being reviewed, but we've got that all posted for everybody, and that is on controlsys.org. I will post the link in the chat. And the best practices committee is working on revamping the sales and marketing section of best practices. You know, marketing is something that changes so quickly these days. So the committee has decided to take a review of the best practices. So that will be coming out some point in the future. And we've also got member logos that you can put on your website or in your email signature or on your business cards. I will say, again, think about your backlinks. If you're going to put that CSIA logo on your website, include a link back to the CSIA website or exchange profile. And if you ever have any questions, contact me. I am more than happy to answer your questions.
Thanks, Lisa. That was a lot of great tips. And you mentioned some CSIA resources for companies who are looking to increase their marketing efforts. Julie, can you think of any other resources that you would recommend? Oh, I think you're muted, Julie.
Thank you. I'm trying to screen share or help out here a little bit, and I got a little off kilter there. One of the things that I do for CSIA is I handle vertical trade media through our firm. But as we're learning today, it's only one of the possibilities for SIs in the marketing sphere. There are more than 100 publications that can be targeted for end user clients, as you can see by all of these logos on this slide. And they're in various industries, right? Food and beverage, packaging, handling, water, wastewater, oil and gas, chemical, pharma, you know, you name it. And over time, one of the things that we've done with these groups is we've developed relationships with the trade media editors and the writers, because we want them to better know what CSIA is all about and really showcase the expertise of what members offer in automation and controls. So how do we do that? Well, we reach out to these editors. When I first started with CSIA 9 years ago, we put together a list of all of these trade media publications and websites, and we looked for the editors, and we developed this comprehensive list. And it's changed over the years, as sometimes some publications have gone dark and other publications have come on board. So what we do is we'll review those editorial calendars for the next year, the previous fall. And Colin, can you go to the next slide?
Sure, I can. Give me 1 second here.
Okay. Actually, I might be able to do it now.
There we go. I can do it.
The one, okay, thank you. The one with the open forum here.
Sure.
This is really important because we will post opportunities that we get on the open forum. So you need to make sure that your marketing person or someone at your company, if you don't have a marketing person, is closely following these posts. And as Lisa mentioned earlier, you know, about your exchange profile and making sure it's up to date, make sure that you're opting in to receive these messages, because these are terrific opportunities for you to consider. And one of the things as well, we've worked with these publications over the years. So now, and you know, they've been coming to us looking for contributors or Q&A responses so that their editorial team can produce content. They like what we've produced and given to them through CSI members. So they want you to come back. I really like this article. Do you think, you know, that person could write another one in 6 months and we could have a part 2? Absolutely. Those are the things that we work out. And in this next slide with food processing, it's a great example of that. This was a really low-hanging fruit opportunity, as I like to say. You answer a handful of questions that are applicable to you, and that content will be part of an article. And then in this case, CSI certified member ECS Solutions was among those contributing. And in the next slide, you see their comments were also included in this. There's like a paragraph where you see ECS Solutions. If you can move to that slide, Colin. There we go. And ECS Solutions is in this third paragraph. So some of what John Paraga mentioned is here. And then you'll see that ECS Solutions is highlighted. We all know that's for a link. If you go to the next slide, you will see ECS Solutions link goes right to the CSI Exchange. So this is where you can find out more about them. And this is one of the things that we do to make sure that our members are not only showcased, but it can introduce more people to CSIA as an association and this exchange as a resource for end users. I like to say that with CSIA Trade Media, you have the advantages of two heads are better than one. CSIA has three: Lisa Richter, who's on this panel today, Eric Bailey, who's CSIA staff, and myself. And one of the things we do is we have brainstorm sessions sometimes about potential ideas. We have a monthly marketing meeting and we talk about our efforts. We discuss what's going on in the industry, how we can involve CSIA in the conversation. For example, a few years ago when brewing automation was taking off, we reached out to SIs in the open forum and we said, what are you working on and what's going on with your company in this particular service and solutions for the industry? And we received maybe about 10, 12 responses from SIs who were working on brewing operations at the time or had just completed them. And half of those turned into story ideas that led to articles in a variety of publications in print and online. And in this next slide, and this is an article in Pro Food World, and that involved CSI certified member Stone Technologies. So that was just one that joined in on this opportunity. Another was the team at Malisko Engineering and Steve Malisko, who of course is on our panel today. And Steve, you worked on this project with Colorado State University, an on-campus brewery, interesting for many reasons. And you've worked with us on other media placements for Malisko content. And I guess just share a little bit about how maybe this experience has worked for you.
Yeah, here, go to the next slide. I think it was on there. That worked out, actually, that worked out really good. Just a little bit of background. At Colorado State University, they started one of the first fermentation science and technology programs in the United States. And Malisko Engineering, we donated 100% all of the engineering, programming, system integration, and support for that program. Now, what was interesting about that was this was published, as you mentioned, in plant engineering, and we got responses from non-brewing related clients, new clients, because they saw the article, they saw what we had done, and for whatever reason, and I'm not going to question why, but they did reach out to us and they did engage us in manufacturing automation upgrades projects and greenfield projects as a result of us participating in this project and then being lucky enough to have plant engineering publish this article. So we, in this particular case, we subtly, as I said, we tooted our own horn and got tangible results from it. And that's the kind of results that Malisko Engineering has seen sort of over the past 19 years by tooting our own horn.
Thanks, Steve. You're right. So you've shown how sharing ideas and what you're doing is important. And it's a reason why you should always feel free to send us your ideas. You don't have to wait for us to ask. If you think there's an industry trend that you're involved in and you don't think many are aware, perhaps you're launching an innovative approach with an end user client, let us know. We're always happy to talk with you. We also read that open forum regularly to see what members are posting. And many times that leads to story ideas. We know that that is a private discussion, a private group conversation. So we always will reach out to the person first, see if they'd be interested in an article opportunity. Maybe we know of one, or maybe we're going to take that to an editor. And that's basically how the process can go. As we move to the next slide, here's a good example of how another way this process works. So there was a simple question and answer request from food engineering led to an article with several of our CSIA members. Well, one of the companies that submitted, Baycom Technologies, had extra answers that really piqued the interest of the trade media editor. And he said, you know what, could we take these and just basically put it into another article, and then that could end up in our sister publication, which is the next slide, refrigerated and frozen foods. Actually, I'm sorry, this is Baycom Tech, keep going, Colin, I'm sorry. Baycom Technologies, this is how they were represented in that food engineering article. Says they're a member of CSIA, and those are the things, as I said, that we ask for when we help bring a placement to them. And so after this slide is a slide of refrigerated and frozen foods. Those answers that Ivy Arkfeld from Baycom Technologies submitted turned into an article, and this shows up in a sister publication. Not only that, but there are a variety of e-newsletters that go out from food engineering and refrigerated and frozen foods, and that's sent to their readers. So that article would end up in those e-blasts. And so there are, more than one opportunity here as you move forward.
Julie, I also just wanted to add that in addition to whatever's published out there, CSIA uses its platform to amplify that. So if I see one of our members has gotten an article in one of these publications, I will put it on the LinkedIn page, I will retweet it, so you're getting a little extra amplification on that content. Yay me.
And if you want your marketing person to be on my regular contact list, you can email me. If you have an idea, don't hesitate to reach out to Eric Bailey and myself. It can work for horizontal or vertical media as well.
Before we jump off of that, I'd like to, again, because the audience says, hey, a lot of beginners in marketing, and I assume also too, that a lot of the audience is engineers. There's some subliminal marketing items here that I want to point out to the beginners is that if you, and I run into this with my own people all the time, an engineer, it's like, they'll tell me about a project you did. Well, I upgraded the PLC. Well, I upgraded the HMI. Well, I put in a new server. Okay, that's what you did, but what benefit was it? What good did it do the client? And that's the essence right there. You want to differentiate, from a marketing standpoint. You want to differentiate yourself from why did the client do the project? And this right here, just the title of this, the benefits of integrating spiral freezers, that goes a long way to enhancing your penetration and your notice when you do engage in marketing out there in the digital world. Just wanted to pass that on.
Absolutely, Steve. And it is that sort of case study format. What was the challenge that you worked on with an end user client, and what was your solution, and what were the results? What were those benefits that came about because of it, and how it can help other people, right? That's what you want to showcase. Of course, the key here is to blend trade media relations with everything else in marketing. And we do a lot of content marketing for clients who are similar to SIs. And I just want to make 3 more quick points here. So if you could move to the next slide, Colin, about what is content marketing. I don't know if any of you have heard of it, if you talked about it. What I like about this is it breaks it down. What you need to do is create something. It has to be valuable. It should be relevant to the times. It should have a consistent message, right? You want to attract your target audience, and you want to drive them to a call for action, right? You want to make them do something because of what you read. Look at what Steve shared with us earlier about the brewing article and how it led to other opportunities for the company. So that's what we're doing. We're talking about blogs, e-newsletters, podcasts, video, photos, case studies, white papers, social media. That's content marketing. So a quick tip, if you have the bandwidth, develop your own stories. Blogs don't have to be a full page. Maybe you read an article online that you thought was great. So maybe write 3 paragraphs about it and offer the link in a blog post. You can share that in social media. You can set up a blog post on your website and get the conversation started. White papers are terrific content. Case studies, as we mentioned, you can share those with CSIA, and then we work with editors to find a placement. So if you have that opportunity to develop content, that's how it would work. In our next slide, marketing has changed over the years, right? It was traditional versus content marketing. So today, more marketing is content influenced by those blogs, the podcasts, the e-newsletters. So it helps people make better decisions. People think that an article, not an ad, is actually going to provide the best insight into a brand. So today, we don't talk at people like we used to. We talk with them. And the refrigerated and frozen foods article is a great example of that. What are the benefits of what happened in this situation? So just a quick tip on this. It's important to develop content right now. Make it authentic, make it real, make it human. You don't need to have a slickly produced video. That's great, but people right now are okay with what you shoot on your cell phone, your iPhone, the videos and photos. You can make those look really good. It's not perfect, and you might have a poor connection. We've had a few little glitches here. I should say, with this today on the Zoom call, but we're used to this in our work from home world, right? People are more accepting of those changes in these unusual times. Final one, why do we need content marketing? And as you see in this slide, content that's put on social media, in blogs, videos, as I mentioned, it will improve your reputation, allows you to build trust and relationships. And people want to buy from people that they work with, that they can trust, right? Final tip here, always repurpose your content. It's never once and done. And I think I've tried to hone that into all of this conversation. If an article's published, share it on all your social media platforms, tag the publication, add it to the news section of your website. If you send out a quarterly newsletter, make sure that article placement is mentioned and offer that link so people can read it. Finally, your online footprint through your website and social media, of course, is key. You need something really strong online, and you've got to have strategy. And I'll let Meghan handle that from Rivergate in a minute, but just want to note, if you want to go any deeper on this, I have some resources from our website, some handy one-pagers with additional detail, and we'll have more on how to reach out to all of us at the end of the webinar to get that.
All right. Thank you, Julie, and Steve also for sharing. Matt Lish from Bacom Technologies wrote in a comment, and he said, I just wanted to let you know that within a week of publishing the articles you just discussed, we got a call from the owner of a Target customer. He told us he loved the article and it cost him to call. So great testimonial for everything that Julie just talked about. I know there are a number of CSI members who probably weren't aware of the opportunities that Julie just shared. It makes me wonder if there are any other unhidden gems for organizations to leverage their existing relationships. Tim, do you have any ideas?
I certainly do, yeah. So I represent a vendor, obviously, and a lot of the vendors out there, all the major automation manufacturers are having digital trade shows nowadays because of the lockdown nature of the business that we are all sitting in. And, what I would encourage everybody, no matter how small or big you are, whatever, you might not even have a marketing budget, but it's very important to engage with your vendors. I represent an SI program, and to connect with these programs, and it allows you to get some marketing benefit. For example, in our program, if you register, you automatically get on the Aveva.com website, so you can be searched. And depending on what you put in your content, we allow you to put, marketing content of who you are and how many employees you have and what market spaces that you market in, and they can actually search down to those things. So if someone says, I'm really interested in brewing, which seems to be the thing today, I appreciate that. Steve, I'd like to know more about what you did at Colorado State University, because the Colorado craft brewing industry here in Colorado is just booming. We have some of the best beer around. Just that's a side comment, but you can actually search for a registered SI, for example, in Colorado that has brewing experience, and it'll dial in. So all the vendors, so Siemens, Rockwell, PTC, Inductive, all of these people have SI programs. So my encouragement is to do that. The digital trade shows is a thing that's very unique. We usually have once a year a very large trade show where everybody gets involved, and you go someplace like Orlando or to Anaheim or wherever it might be. And nowadays everything is being done digitally, and we give opportunities to be able to sponsor that. We actually have the ability to do breakout sessions just like you would at a normal trade show. There's also a lot of the people took it one step further, and they published Zoom events in addition to what the digital event was, which was for happy hour, and everybody just linked on the digital event, and everybody was around having drinks and just chatting up and having fun. But these are types of things that you can get involved in with the vendors. You know, we have the budgets to do these big events, and as a system integrator, we offer the opportunities to be able to connect with us and to identify with us. And I would highly encourage anybody that has experience in with one vendor or another to connect with them, get into their programs, and take advantage of these things that we're offering. So that's a hidden gem, I would think.
Thanks for sharing that, Tim. It's a lot of great advice on tactics, but what about strategy? What should marketers be doing differently now, and what should they continue to do? Megan, do you have any advice on this?
Yeah, so this is a question that we get a lot, and that we've been receiving, quite frequently, especially, since the pandemic. And while, of course, like a lot of our world has really turned upside down, I would really encourage you to not get pulled aside from the shiny objects syndrome, or to try and think about what needs to stay the same. So, if you think about your life, there's a lot of our lives that has changed, but your house is still the same, your spouse is still the same. You didn't change your kids just because of the pandemic. You might have thought about it, but you didn't actually do it, right? So that I kind of see with companies as well, right? If you are a system integrator that focuses on moving heavy machinery with robots, the vaccines and pharma might seem really flashy, and it might seem like a good place to pivot, but if you have no experience with that, you really want to stick with who you are. So I encourage you to think about kind of these three areas of marketing. There's who you are. That's what your company does, what you do really well, what are your, what is the thing what's your bread and butter? What do you do really well? Then who are your customers, right? So there may be, if you're working exclusively in aerospace, you may need to do some shifting in what you do, but you might want to think about, do you have another little subset of customers that maybe you want to expand or something like that? But think about your customers. And then think about the benefit that you bring. And that's kind of what Steve was talking about. So you program HMIs, so you can install a PLC, so what? Give me numbers. How much faster did you make this machine? How far did you improve this quality? How much scrap did you reduce? So thinking about what exactly is that benefit? So really the what really wants to stay the same. So if you haven't spent a lot of time thinking about what is that story, then that's probably your first place to start. You may have more time now. You might have, utilization might be a little bit lower, and you might have some time to kind of really think about, does everybody in your company know your elevator speech? Can everybody recite it verbatim? And then you might want to think about telling that story more frequently. So if you have the lower utilization, you might have the opportunity to kind of think through some more case studies. And maybe those are case studies that go on your website, or that you talk to Julie about, or something like that. But you might want to take advantage of that lower utilization by telling that story more often. And then, the how may change. Like Tim was just talking about, if the way that you were telling that story before was going and sitting down in somebody's office or going to a trade show, then of course you're going to need to change the how of how you tell that story. But again, be careful of being sucked into that shiny object syndrome. There are a lot of very fun tools in marketing. There are a lot of tools that are very fun. But if it's not helping you tell who you are, telling it to your customers and what benefit you bring, then it's not going to be as effective. So as Lisa was saying, TikTok, a renegade dance about your latest upgrade might be really cute, but it's not clear. And it's not, 16-year-olds are probably not your target audience. So you want to tell it in a venue that's going to reach your people. LinkedIn, probably. Maybe the renegade dance. I don't know. I probably wouldn't. So just be aware of those fun tools. Stick with the bread and butter, and and as close to where you were before the pandemic. Think about what that is. And then when you think about those adjustments, make sure that those adjustments are based in reality. So have you talked to your customers? Have you checked in with your customers, your actual customers, and talked to them? What is happening? What's the status? What's the plan? Because it is very different if you're in Arizona 2 weeks ago, or if you're in Massachusetts, or you're in Arizona now, or it's just everything is changing so fast. So I actually want to take a quick poll, and Colin, I think, is going to help us put it up. Have you checked in with your customers in the last 2 weeks about this? Not about a proposal, not about that, but like what's going on at your company? Just a, hey, how are you? And Colin's going to put that up. Have you talked, like the sort of option, have you talked to your customers in the last 2 weeks? Yes, no, or sort of?
Okay, so we're at about 25%. So we'll just wait till this finishes up real quick. And we're at 50%. All right, looks like we're stalling at 60. So I'm gonna end polling there and share results.
Good job, everybody. All right, looks like 90% have checked in at least yes or sorta about this. That's great. So then you'll have a better idea of like of what pieces of who you are or what pieces of the benefits you bring you want to emphasize over the others. So while you're not changing them, there might be some that want to float to the surface. So perhaps if people have shut down, maybe you want to market something about taking advantage of that shutdown time and what can you do about upgrades there. If it's, obviously there's going to be lots of things about social distancing and keeping operators separate and all that sort of thing. So of course, if you have things that you do all the time anyway, then yes, that's something that you would want to do. But I would really encourage you, number one, if you don't have a solid picture about who you are, start there. If you don't have a real clear picture of who your customers are and what their pain points are, go there. If you haven't done a lot of storytelling and you don't have a lot of examples there, that would be my next piece, especially for, I know we have a lot of beginners and intermediate people in the audience today. And then once you get there, like you can get fancier about how you're going to tell that story, how often you're going to tell that story, and how you repurpose that content into videos or instead of just blog posts and that infographics and that sort of thing. So I'm going to turn it back to Jessica because I know we want to make sure we have plenty of time for Q&A today.
Thank you, Megan. Yes, I've been asking all the questions so far, so I wanted to make sure that the audience has a chance to get their questions answered by the panel. So let's open up the Q&A. Any burning questions that you all have had so far, just go ahead and put them in the Q&A. And while we wait to see what questions the audience has, we did post earlier ahead of time to get a few questions. So I was wondering, this is a great one that I saw. If anyone on the panel wants to jump in, can someone already who is on board do the marketing, or do you have to wait and hire somebody to be a full-time marketing person? This is a question that I've heard a lot. Does anybody on the panel want to take a shot at that? Go for it,
I'll talk
Megan.
a little bit about that. And Steve, I know you may have some. Actually, Steve, I'm going to pitch it to you first. You have the smile that says you have a good answer there.
Well, I don't know if I have a good idea. I have an idea, but it really kind of depends. When I got that revelation 19 years ago, we didn't know what we didn't know, but we attempted to make our own marketing, and it was quasi-effective. But as we sort of got disappointed, as we got disappointed with the results, we said, well, maybe we need somebody who really knows marketing and really knows that segment of our profession. So what we started to do is we started to recruit and use outside resources and start to rely on them. And it was only recently, in the last several years, where we brought on our own full-time marketing and branding lead and digital marketing resources. But it was an evolutionary process over the course of probably 15 years because we didn't have the budget. We weren't small. We only had 8 people 19 years ago, and so we did the best we could. But as we grew and as we got smarter, we employed outside resources who were smarter than us in marketing and digital marketing, and eventually we developed enough momentum and enough inertia that we said, you know what, we really need to self-fund and self-perform. So it's kind of an evolutionary process.
Yeah, I would say I would agree with that. I would say there's kind of, you can use somebody in-house, but I would say that the parameters for that have to be, you have to have somebody who can work on it and work on it consistently. So if you have the CEO who is also the CFO, who also is the engineering manager trying to also do marketing, no, it's not going to get the attention that it needs. And so I would not do that. I also would not say like hire your 22-year-old niece who knows nothing about the industry and have that person do it. There is so much industry knowledge that has to go into this. It's a very technical industry. So, you know, that person would either need to have a lot of technical knowledge or have access, regular access to somebody who has a lot of technical knowledge. And so I would make sure that that's the situation. If you have somebody on your staff who maybe just has, the business is slow right now, and you know that this person has very good communication skills, has a good head on their shoulders, and understands the business and understands, again, who you are and what benefit that you bring, there are a ton of resources. I mean, the great thing about marketing is that marketers love to talk about themselves. So there's tons of like, CoSchedule is a really great blog that tells you all about what to post, when to post, all this kind of, like, it's very, very good resource info. HubSpot is another one that, I mean, they love to talk about themselves. So there's like tons of information there, and you can really, the information is out there. So if you have somebody who really can dedicate the time to it, then it is a possibility. But if you're talking about, again, that person who's wearing 4 hats, or you have an engineer who you have to decide whether they're going to spend their time on engineering or spend their time on marketing, probably want to give that person, let them work in their area of expertise.
Yeah, this is Julie and Megan. I agree. One of the things too is there are some people who love to write, even the people sometimes who wear a few hats, and they're able to do it. And that's great in our experience working with some of the CSIA members on article placements and whatnot. And then others, they have a firm or they do have somebody in-house. But if you can find those people who really love to write and can write well, that's truly the key.
Thanks everyone for your insight. We have a question from John, who works in food and beverage. And right now he's not able to visit anyone in person. Normally he'd be doing a lot of business development and networking at conferences and getting leads that way. Any tips on how to network right now and how to bring in leads right now?
I'd like to answer just a little bit of that in the fact that when I was in business development and sales, utilizing the product or whatever experience you're trying to sell to them, you can use the social media, so which that was mentioned very early on. Connections in LinkedIn are very important, and that's a great way, number one, to find out who at that company that you want to connect with, and then try to connect with them on social media. Also, publishing very specific content about your company on social media gives them, once you connect to them, then you can start not directing right at them, but publishing the content of where you're an expert in what you want to sell to them. And then that comes in on their feed, and they'll eventually see, if you're very diligent in doing it on a regular basis, they'll see what your experiences are. That would be a recommendation I would make.
I would caution though, with social media, it really has to be engagement, right? You can't just puke out content, and you have to respond to people who put their comments on there. It's reciprocal, right? It's just like being a good friend. You don't want to talk about yourself the whole time. You also want to hear about the other person too.
And just to add to that, Lisa, you had mentioned earlier how important LinkedIn is. And right now, the experts tell us that this platform is really your elevator speech. You have 690 million people out there on this platform, and they're waiting to meet you. So this is kind of your networking event and your first impression right now, which is why you need to make sure that your personal profile is updated and the posts are happening regularly on your company page. A lot of people are posting to LinkedIn right now. Some are posting the right things, some are not. Some are just moving forward like a sales machine, and that can be a bit of a mistake. So as Meghan said earlier, reaching out to clients, seeing how they're doing. People are worried about their businesses right now, as they should be. You know, they're spending time on security and safety. They're not maybe talking as much about growth. They want to get through this. So that spending time with your clients and those you're connected to on LinkedIn is really a good idea right now.
Thanks, everyone. Although there are many challenges right now with networking and generating leads, I think there's also a lot of people have maybe more time to talk to people who they might not be able to jump on a call with before. We have a few questions on how to do a launch right now during the pandemic, a question on the best way to launch a new product right now, and also another question on the best way to launch a revised company website. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, I could go ahead and chime in on, we just recently did something like this, and it wasn't just a one-prong approach, it was about a 3 or 4-prong approach. We did, there was a question about emailing. We did email marketing. We sent out emails to our database. We posted on social media. We posted something on our website. We made notifications, our announcements to our partner suppliers. So it was 5 different avenues. We blasted out. Now, once we did that, then we didn't stop right there. This was not a one-shot deal. We are continuing to trickle out on a routine basis. You know, we created a cadence to go ahead and trickle out marketing information and quote-unquote product information, so to speak, so that we continue to stay out there. Let's face it, not everybody is always on social media. Not everybody is always checking their email. Sometimes it hits the trash bin. So we just continue in hopes that, okay, sooner or later, the right person, the right people, the right department's going to see what we're sending out. But it's not a one-shot deal.
Also, going back to that whole lead generation thing, webinars are a way to get leads. You host a webinar about your new product or whatever you're launching, and a lot of organizations will give you that registration list. Those are all leads. Those are warm leads. I would say even maybe hot leads. There's also content marketing can be used for lead generation, right? If there's a high valuable piece of content, somebody's maybe further down in the funnel, but they'll give up a little bit of data to get that content. I mean, you've all done that, right? You've come across this white paper that you really want. Oh, they just asked me for my email. Do I give it? You know, but that's a lead. You know that person's interested in that topic. They've given you willingly giving you their data. Hopefully, it's not Mickey Mouse at Disney.com, but you know, you've got a good solid lead there too. So those are some other ways I would speak a little bit to launching products as well as getting the lead gen. Go ahead, Meghan.
Yeah, I'd also think about what your product is, think about what your website is, and broken record here, think about who that customer is and why do they care. So that might mean targeting and segmenting your audiences, because your vendor partners are probably going to have a different reason for caring about your new website. Maybe they're like, yes, this is new content that I can be sending to my customers. So that's going to be a slightly different message than you're going to want to send to whoever your food and bev customers, your control engineers, or the people on the plant floor might need a different approach. So think about, those people on the plant floor also may not be on LinkedIn. So while LinkedIn is one of your strategies, I think that's why it's good that Steve was talking about a 3 or 4 pronged approach. You want that in terms of channel, and you also probably want that in terms of messaging. You're launching the new website, but why do people care? Is it because it looks nicer? That might not be a good enough reason for people to want to come. Is it because you have new tools or you have new information? Then that's something different. And so when you send out those emails, maybe group those emails, or do LinkedIn. If you're going to do advertising, you can target those, or kind of send out different messages from different reps at your own company.
One other item I might throw in. I know I talked about 5 different approaches, but also too, the messaging. To your point, Meghan, though, the messaging is important in that you got to know your audience. Like in our case. The message we sent out to the production manager was different than the message we sent out to the maintenance manager, which was different than we sent out to the IT director, which was different than the divisional engineer that we sent out in the C-suite. 4 different messages, all about the same solution, but their needs what their goals are in life, what their goals are in their day-to-day and day out. It's important for the SI to realize that all four of them have different objectives day in and day out to meet their goals in their respective positions.
Well, just to
Great.
get back to the website for just a few seconds here, you sort of can go through a checklist with that to figure out how am I leveraging my data analytics. You know, what are my key pages? Who visits which page? You know, measuring your activity, you know, how much time do people spend on site, the bounce rate, all of those kind of things, and then evaluating your content, right? That's important. Are you sending links to reputable sites? Are you sending users, excuse me, things like that? And your design, does it look good? I have a resource that I'd be happy to share with anyone about that.
Jessica, why don't we, we're getting to the top of the hour, and I know some people probably have to bounce, so why don't we put up, actually Colin, why don't you put up the contact info slide? I know a number of people have been asking in the Q&A for the contact info, so I want to get that up there for everybody. If you want to stick around, we're happy to go through some more questions here. I can see there's still some more questions on the thing, so the panel has agreed to stay a little bit longer to help everybody get these questions answered, but I did want to make sure that I got this contact info up for those people who have to leave. They have a hard stop at 11.
Great, thank you. There's a question on methods to validate the quality of a website. I just wanted to throw out that Google does provide a website quality score. You can just enter in your URL and they'll scan your website and they can provide some recommendations, areas for you to dig into a little more. So I just wanted to throw that out there real quick. And we have a few questions about content. Tips for increasing open rates for email marketing, like say a newsletter. And then advice for publishing content on LinkedIn versus a company LinkedIn page. What kinds of content you would publish and how to track engagement on that.
I'll take the increasing open. I feel like I'm on a game show. I need a buzzer. The email open rates, you know, there's a couple things here. A/B tests. If you have the ability to A/B test, that will help you start to get some data on, okay, this turns people off, this turns people's cranks. There are also some headline or subject line analyzer tools out there. Proceed with caution, you know, who knows if these people are just making that stuff up or whatnot, but this could be a way for you to A/B test, right? Try one, you know, try using one of these subject email headline analyzers and then do your own email subject line and see which one wins. That would be one of my pieces of advice for getting those open rates up.
I even would scale it back from there. I would start with your list and see how clean your list is. You can use a list cleaning service like Kickbox, or I think there's one like Xerify is one of them, and making sure that you're cleaning up those bounces, because essentially, if you're not super familiar, essentially like the spam filters will notice if you're getting a lot of bounce backs, that will reduce your score. Basically, so make sure that your list is clean and that the people who want to be on there are on there. It's kind of a self-fulfilling thing of the more opens you get, the more opens you get. So that is, I would add that to the email deliverability piece. And to hop on the LinkedIn, the company versus the personal page, I would certainly put it on the company page, but I think the hypothesis here is correct, is that the personal pages typically do better in the algorithm. So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll post on the company page and then also email it out to all of the people within the company and ask them to either post or share whatever that information is there.
Yeah, and Megan, of course, what do you post? What content? You know, if you write a blog, that's a great post. Industry articles that are connected, company news, maybe an anniversary, sometimes things like, hey, we just celebrated our 16th anniversary, and you see all of the people who respond say, congratulations, that does really well. Company events, maybe you have a Founders Day event or something, and you're gonna promote that. Set up a calendar and you can schedule posts, and there are a lot of different ways you can go through like 100 blog post ideas or 100 ideas for posting on social media, but be open and flexible if you do schedule that to something that may be more current that you would need to promote.
And then what about tracking engagement with your postings, I guess, for this question specifically on LinkedIn, I know that you can see how many people have liked or shared your post, but do you guys use any other tools to track that?
We usually are sticking with LinkedIn offers some pretty decent analytics, and so comparing like which one does better than the other. That's one thing that you can see there. How many eyeballs are on your posts? That's another good one to look at. You can get much more detailed, especially if you're doing promoted content. You can get very, very specific details there. It's also usually good to look at like what is the job title of the people who are following your page is another good one.
Well, speaking about getting very specific about the people you're targeting, somebody asked the most effective way to target specific companies with marketing.
I guess I would want clarification on that question. You know, if this is like a one-to-one approach, I would just start pounding that LinkedIn. That doesn't sound nice, but you know what I mean?
Well, the hashtag capability will help you with that for certain. So you can hashtag the name of the company, and everybody that works for that company will probably be following their own company, and the content, whatever you're commenting on, it'll show up in their feed.
Yeah, I guess I would wonder if this person, do they have a sales team, or do they kind of do all the sales in-house? You know, the LinkedIn does have a few other tools about like Sales Navigator and finding people, you know, friends of friends type things. So if you know one person, can you figure out who else is there looking for specific job titles? All of those are available within LinkedIn.
Wonderful, thank you. Looks like one last question for now. How can you improve knowledge writing skills?
There's a lot of courses out there. I'm a big fan of Ann Hanley, and her company name's escaping me. Content Rules or something. I don't know. She's got a company, Marketing Profs. Is it Marketing Profs?
Marketing Profs.
Marketing Profs. I know she has some workshops that she puts on regularly about writing. It's one of those skills that you have to practice. And there's a saying that there's no good writers, only good editors. So, you know, partnering with somebody to guide you and, you know, offer you some advice and stuff like that would be my tips on that. Anybody else?
I was just going to say.
Yeah, one cheat thing, the Grammarly plugin is a really good cheat. That's not for, you know, big revision type things, but where does the comma go? Did I spell this correctly? That sort of thing. In context spelling also, like there type things. It's a little bit of a secret weapon.
I would just say read, right? Read what you can get your hands on, because that's going to make you a better writer. You're going to learn more about the industry, what, you know, your end users are looking for, whatever that may be. I must get, I don't know how many publications in print still, although I tend to read more online, but that's just going to help you evolve into a better writer.
It's not going to happen overnight. That's one thing. And you got to practice. And the other thing I find, because I've gotten to a point to where I do a lot of writing, and after I write something, I reread it and I try to put myself in the shoes of the audience. And even though it's something that may be intuitively obvious to me, if I put myself in the shoes of the audience, I realize that a good percentage of the time, what I think I'm adequately explaining isn't coming across. So, I mean, it's definitely a skill that takes time, but the key there is practice at it.
And probably a little bit of that is just accepting that your first one's going to be bad. Like just your first blog post is going to be bad, and your 100th one will be a lot better. And the nice thing is that the internet is not carved in stone, and you can always go back and revise your first post and clean that up and make it a lot better for, you know, for future readers.
The universal problem for engineers to be able to write.
Yep.
Well, I would say the engineers that I work with are a lot better at writing than they think they are. So you probably are too out there. And just be confident that you know what you're talking about and you're a subject matter expert. That goes a long way. Well, it looks like there are no other questions. So I guess we can wrap it up. Thank you to our panel and to everyone in the audience for spending your time with us today and sharing your questions and answering our polls. You can feel free to contact the panel with any other marketing questions you might have. You can see the contact information here. And don't forget to check out the marketing toolkit that Lisa mentioned at controlassist.org/marketing toolbox. Thank you, everyone. Hope this was valuable.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Good to talk to you.